Welcome to Hangman Tarot. We're going to get started here with our celebrity tarot card reading right now. We're going to get into Sid and Nancy, but first, subscribe to Hangman Tarot. Of course, first and foremost, you have to get taken care of. And then if you are just joining us, my name is Jordan. I am Hangman Tarot. We are going to get started getting into current energy and just kind of the relationship between Sid and Nancy. I am going to go over their story because I think it's of importance, especially when dealing with a lover's situation, toxic, having differences, temperaments, the differences in the ability to adapt. I mean, just all around toxic love relationship. And almost like a seduction of it too. I just feel like this is like the epitome of the opposite of Romeo and Juliet, which a lot of people like to say that they're kind of similar. They're not fucking similar at all. Maybe kind of ish, but not really. I just don't see anything similar about them. I do see a similar aspect in them when it comes to certain love icons, but that's because they are actually ultimately their own type of romantic love icon figures. So I am going to get into this reading. I did a little bit of search and kind of deep dived it pretty heavy as far as like what people think happened. I'm just going to go over the spiel about kind of like when they started hanging out all the way to Nancy's and his death ultimately. So again, I am going to get into their stuff. I'm going to go over their astrology quickly here. Sid and Nancy are a couple, okay? And Sid is actually a Taurus Libra moon sign. He was born, I don't think it said where he was born. Where'd it go? Yikes. Where'd it go? Okay, anyway, I'll find his birth date. I don't know why I don't have that written down. Anyway, I have everything else written down for this. Nancy is a Pisces, a Gemini moon sign, and he died February 1979 at the age of 21, and she died October 12th, 1978, so a year prior. Let me get into the rest of their stuff. Okay, so ultimately, let's get into kind of why Nancy got killed. Why is this such a thing? In October 1978, she was found dead in the bathroom of the couple's room with a single stab wound in the abdomen. Vicious was actually charged with her murder, and that is Sid Vicious. That's the whole name that he has, but died of a heroin overdose while on bail in February 1979 before the case actually went to trial. So Sid Vicious was born as John Simon Ritchie, and Nancy Spungen. This is going to be their, tragic love story. So it really fascinated the public ever since their deaths. So to the point where they had been romanticized, like a real life version of Romeo and Juliet, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. And even though most people found her to be just completely abrasive, completely very, very annoying or chaotic, Sid didn't seem to really mind her crass exterior. So their romance has even made them iconic figures in their own right, so much so that their story has been told on screen in many films and documentaries. So according to Rolling Stones magazine, though, they actually met in London in 1977. After Sid had replaced Glenn Matlock as the Sex Pistols bass guitarist. He actually didn't even know how to play the bass. So like even being thrown into this band, he was very shy. And so he was actually scared of the audience. That's how shy he was as a person. And Nancy, a 17-year-old Philly girl who pushed her way through the punk scene, was a new kind of groupie who had actually traveled from New York to follow Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan of the Heartbreakers, but ended up meeting Sid instead. And what I mean by new kind of groupie is that she wasn't tall, thin, with beautiful long blonde hair, just like, the typical groupie girl that followed the bands. She actually had messy hair, it was mousy brown. She didn't give a fuck. She wouldn't give a fuck. I mean, this is just how this chick was. Ripped nylons, name it. Just kind of that look. The pair then immediately became an item, fueling each other's drug addiction. And through Nancy, who truly embodied the nastiest parts of the New York rocker scene, she actually taught Sid all about sex and drugs and the lifestyle of a New York rocker. So he had no fucking clue what he was coming here for. I mean, he was coming from England, London, from the UK. He was coming from the UK, and she grew up within this, situation and this scene. And so she taught him kind of everything that there was to know about sex and drugs and being a rock and roll anything. And Sid was enamored with Nancy, and the other Sex Pistols really didn't like her because of the way that she was and the way she treated him and the way that they kind of interacted and how he was becoming. Again, he was nice. He was shy. I mean, there was a lot of really nice things about him. He was tolerant of so many things that he had this person around him that his band was like, fuck no. And she was actually banned from coming on to their US tour in 1978, so a year later. And the couple later reunited, and they spent this time in the UK and the US together. So they reunited after they came back, after the band, tour or whatever. So from August 1978, Sid and Nancy were staying in the Chelsea Hotel in New York City. And it was there that they would actually just party, and they'd go on drug binges, and they would do this together often enough. But on October 11th, Sid is said to have taken 30 tablets of TUINAL. I don't know what drug that is. Tunal? I'm not quite sure. I totally was going to see what kind of drug that was so I could be very professional here, but I don't know what it is. At 10 a.m., Sid actually called down to the reception asking for help. He had found Nancy on the floor bleeding. That's what he had said. And the 20-year-old Nancy began to proceed to bleed to death on the bathroom floor of the room in Chelsea Hotel in New York. Sid was and became the prime suspect in Nancy's murder. And although he initially said he had killed her, he'd retracted his statement and said he had been passed out on the bed when the incidents occurred. So the musician was arrested and charged with her murder no matter what, either way. He was then set to stand trial. While on bail, he did try to slit his wrists and was not successful. So he did try to commit suicide the moment that he could, stepped outside, took a breath of fresh air, and it didn't work. So a short time later, Vicious's bail was revoked after he assaulted Patti Smith's brother. I don't know who that is. Todd Smith, with a broken Heineken bottle and in a New York City bar, according to a New York Post clipping in Please Kill Me article. He was then sent to Rikers Island in New York. So his bond was revoked and he was sent to Rikers Island. And then a New York City jail and freed on an additional $10,000 bail. Following his second release from jail, Vicious and his friends had a party over in Greenwich Village apartments of his new girlfriend, Michelle Robinson. His mother, Ann Beverly, was in New York City and scored some drugs for an evening of celebration, of course. I mean, you have to score some drugs. Your mom needs to be the one who scores the drugs so that we can have a celebration that you're on bond for killing your girlfriend. I'm trying to absorb this. On the morning of February 2nd, 1979, in Robinson's apartment, Vicious was found dead of a heroin overdose by his mother and Robinson. And according to The Guardian, police found a syringe, a spoon, and a substance near his body. He was only 21. When I heard about this story at the time, I was probably in my teens when I heard about the story. My brother had told me about it. He was a punk and he loved, all of this stuff. But he had told me about it, and he said that he told me what ages they were, but it really hits different when you're 38. You're like, you were 21 when you died of a heroin overdose. Am I reading this correctly? My blinkers off? Like, what? So it's just like incredible to me that he died at the age of fucking 21. His innocence protested by many, saying that he was capable of a wide range of self-destructive acts. But I don't think a lot of people think that he could have done a lot of things, but they don't think that he could actually kill somebody, especially the girlfriend he called the love of his life. Unless he was, there's a belief that there was a botched suicide. So no, I don't believe Sid killed Nancy, is what was quoted saying from somebody. That was kind of a remembrance. She was his first and only love in his life. And because there was someone else who could have been this one behind the stabbing, a man named Phil Strongman wrote in his book, Pretty Vacant, A History of UK Punk, that Nancy, telling a story of Rocket Redglare, a bodyguard and drug dealer who was claimed to have stabbed her because she confronted him about stealing. So then it was said that he gave her a stab in the stomach, get the fuck out of my way, and then jogged out. And he was actually said to be boasting about committing this murder in a punk bar in New York. But then he passed away in 2007, so what the fuck does it matter? And the true story of Nancy's death has never really been discovered. And the bottom line is I think a lot of it, hello, Green, Oh, yeah, I can see you. Sorry, I was just reading I write my spiel down, and that's what I was reading. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that this was not investigated enough, I think, thoroughly. I mean, but who knows? So let's get into this reading. I want to see what the cards have to say about it. Hold on, my laptop is trying to fall off. What are you doing? I just don't understand this stuff here. There we go. Okay. Yes, I can see you. All right. I am going to get into the just kind of top surface energy and just kind of dig from there. We're going to get into the involvement between the two of them and kind of all the way into the death. And I mean, this is a very sad story, and it's just very, very sad when things like this happen, obviously, but it's just the aftermath of her death is like, whoa, calm down. And just the mere fact that, I mean, he was actually coming off of drugs. So his body was coming off. He was kind of in this cold place, but they think that that's what fueled, him getting mad at Nancy or whatever. But he was a very tolerant individual. So I don't know how much that would have happened. And he was very predictable. Okay, let me get a couple cards from here. Green. That's so weird. All right. I think temperament is definitely a large energy here. I think, what is happening? I'm literally shuffling these cards and these ones keep popping out of it. So that is telling me something large. It's just weird. It's even bringing out that witch energy, the witch vibe for me on her. So Nancy even being kind of a witch or, putting things under spell, or just by the way they acted, just that feminine, that dark feminine or whatnot. I do feel like it's almost like she kind of grabbed a hold of him, really adding to kind of put him underneath her wings, if you will, and fueled him with whatever it was that she had, almost like drinking from whatever kind of waters that she was pouring out for him. I do feel like that has a large amount to do. Those are definitely big parts of the situation. Okay, so there was no perfect solution here. Definitely between the two of them, there was no perfect solution and there was no truth. Now there's no information, no truth. And I feel like an honest desire to know and speak was never had. Okay. And that could be between the both of them. That could be also have something to do with just her in general and just kind of how she was with him. But I feel like any of this truth would have really been beneficial, or the results or the solution. Any kind of honesty or facts would really help the whole situation, whether or not she passed away or not. So even after the death, more information, more facts would have been very beneficial to coming up with a perfect solution or quickly solving it. That has a lot to do with it. And I kind of assumed, I mean, because they chopped it up to she's a drug dealer, she's troubled, she's temperamental, she has outbursts, she's a known groupie, she's like when prostitutes are murdered and they're found, and then is there an investigation? Not very often. I mean, I feel like they kind of base it off of like who you are in society or who you are in, the civilized world. If you're not civilized, then you don't get an investigation. We don't give a shit. We'll put you at the bottom of the rack here. I feel like that has a lot to do with it. I do feel like they're always kind of themselves fully. but it was almost like a contest between the two of them, if that makes sense. So just between the both of them, there was always kind of this contest. I feel like the growth or the change is definitely something that stopped because of the competition, because of the truth, because of the mere fact that the two of them could not bring this together in harmony or peace, because there was no like certain predictable temperaments. The temperaments had a lot to do with it. One was really, really bad and the other one was not. Don't mind my finger. I just did my daughter's hair, so it looks like I burned my entire finger. Yeah. And he had a lot of patience with her. He had a lot of tolerance within this relationship. I mean, you would have had to. You can feel the trouble, the over emotion, the intensity between the two of them. And a lot of it had to do with her. Like, if anyone was to murder somebody in this relationship, I'm going to say that she would have murdered him. I'm not going to lie about that. I just feel like that. And it's almost like maybe he didn't want to say she stabbed herself. Can that happen? I mean, who the hell knows? But we are going to find out through tarot kind of the beginning of their love or their relationship, whatever that might be for them, and just get into all the way into the death and lead into there. So that's where we're going to head with this also. Okay. I'm pretty excited to do this reading. My brother was obsessed with this couple. He's no longer with us, but yeah, he and the band that he played for, that was definitely his jam. He really loved the punk scene, and he told me all sorts of things about the punk scene and kind of the meaning of it and yada, yada, yada. But I thought it was very interesting. I mean, at the time, especially, just kind of that no fucks given, we don't fucking care what you think about us type vibe. It's like, hell yeah. Because it's hard not to give a shit. It's hard not to give a shit what other people think of you. It is. All right. Okay. All right. Let's get into this reading. Okay, Taurus. He's a Taurus, Libra. Their Earth. Okay, so over on his side, there was definitely a mother wound when he met Nancy, okay, when they were first kind of involved. The thinking on the situation, or kind of the overall temperament of the both of them, again, he was very motivated by this lover. He was definitely in a very out of touch place with his heart. I feel like there definitely was no nurturing or certain love from the mother. I think the mother wound is huge here. So there was a disruption, and it brought a lot of chaos and kind of consumed him, making it so that it was okay for his lovers to be disruptive. Emotionally, he saw things from a different angle than like you or I. So that's why he could love this person or be around this person and have that tolerance. There was no conflict, kind of like when he was introduced. The changes, though, I feel like definitely the changes that he was seeing, he could see a mistake happening. So I think that the forgiveness was always happening. There was always some sort of forgiveness happening. I do feel like there was some sort of constant chaos, though. There was just like this emotional, back and forth thing. Over on her end of things, she wanted some sort of spark. So she was trying to refocus into him. So she might have already had some sort of a relationship happening, because that was losing all sorts of its original sparkle, or, certain energy that you have when you're in a relationship kind of dwindles away. That's where she was at in her space, in her element. So she was just showing up, and she was kind of emotionally hopeless over the situation. She really wanted to just kind of like fix him, or fix whatever she didn't see or wanted to see. And I feel like a lot of things were unanswered as far as emotionally connecting. I don't know if she actually connected emotionally. I think she just had intense feeling when she was connected with somebody. And I feel like the hopeless feeling was just kind of covering up any kind of love. So, because the sympathy or being empathic or compassionate, I don't think she had a ton of. I think, it was too late to be in a certain position as far as emotionally really connecting with somebody. So this definitely wasn't really probably love on her end, especially within the first year. I think it was very much obsession, and just kind of like that overall, you give me a yummy feeling. I like the original sparkle. That's what kind of like fuels me. And she was always trying to, again, fix things and assess things. But I mean, either or, she was very experienced emotionally, or like dealing with this type of a relationship. It just indicates very experienced. Let's move forward. What was the original issue? The original issue here is a static relationship. So once again, just not being enough for her or him. So it could be either or. But I feel like giving up old mental habits, somebody bored. And I feel like the main issue here is that in reality, they were always available. They were always reliable. There was a secure thing about the situation, especially when they were alone together. So whatever it was that was really fucked up about each other almost like benefited each other. So they were willing to risk things and willing to sacrifice things to stay in this relationship. Let's keep moving forward. Let's get the most present issue right before. Nine of Wands, that's reversed. Got the moon upright, the devil's upright. So the biggest issue right before was addictions, obviously. Out of control, impulsions. This is definitely something of bondage, inability to move forward. There was some chains here. And it was like, you know what? I'm going to keep those chains. That's right where I want them. I want them right there. So there was blocked emotion, probably blocked thinking even during or right before this situation. Over on his end of things, I feel like there was definitely some sort of vulnerability. He was very blind to the truth at the time. Very blind. Which that, you know, if you were to reflect on it or look back on the situation, again, he was tolerant of the situation, but was he actually looking at the full picture? Was he able to see the full picture of what he had and what they were doing? So there was a confused, not kind of sure feeling, especially around the time she passed. So I do feel like she's very stubborn. So stubbornness had a lot to do with this, a rigid thinking. Nine of Wands in reverse is just giving me all sorts of mistrust and something to do with, you know, risking or being hasty. So that had a lot to do with whatever was going on here. I feel like there was no fulfillment in the way that, you know, her energy or her action was at. I do feel like, yeah, it was definitely not, it's just like the risk taking. And she was mistrustful. This could have had a ton to do with like mistrusting somebody or not having, but she had no direction or, you know, like when she was addressing whatever situation was going on before she passed, no matter what, it had to do with being mistrustful and being hasty and just quickly doing something without thinking about it, if that makes sense. So what was the thinking or the issues or any elements, truth, added emotions during the inevitable here? In foresight, there definitely was some exhaustion, a lack of harmony. The solutions weren't here. I definitely feel like the competition came to an end. Okay. So the harmony wasn't here. The fighting was never ending. So what was the ultimacy here is that looking for some sort of an adventure, obviously, is kind of what began them. Okay. Knowing always and just exploring and moving into things as far as like adventure. But I feel like, again, the thinking before you act thing is coming back up. So I do feel like whatever the situation was, it was almost like, again, don't always get what you want. No, you don't. Yeah, you don't always get what you want. The fulfillment would have never been there for them. There was just lack of any type of like meeting goals in the relationship or achievement. So during the death, there was definitely like a feeling or an energy of the fight never ends. It's always this, but the competition did come to an ending. Now, I don't know what that exactly means as far as, because any conflict here had to do with that. And it was between the teamwork that they both had. I don't think that he actually did this, though. I don't think that he killed her. No. I'm seeing no. Let me pull some cards over here. I'm seeing no. How'd you die? Don't do that. Hold on. There we go. Whoa. The harmony thing keeps coming up for me. I just feel like the harmony thing keeps coming up. And the only reason that there was some sort of harmony or dependability in this relationship had a lot to do with his tolerance. He was very easygoing. I feel like he had a lot of predictability about him. But on the other hand, he was dealing with somebody who was over emotional, somebody who was a drug dealer, and she definitely had a temper. This is something that could be said from the mom. Okay, so the dependability, though, the kindness and the gentleness and almost like the steadiness that he felt with her had nothing to do with like what we would consider normal, if that makes sense. Okay, but to them, it was something of that. Okay, so I feel like, though, the only harmony that she would have felt would have awaited her afterwards. Okay. So I feel like kind of the elements here are the fact that the conflict or the change or the instability had all to do with the fact that the harmony was not running through her. The harmony that they both wanted in this relationship or this connection, or what they thought was harmony, would have been something afterlife. Okay. Because I don't think that they could have had any harmony in this situation, especially the way that they were brought up and especially what they thought, and believed in. I mean, this was just kind of a riot, chaos time, but it was like the scene. So I do think that this had a lot to do with freedom. Again, the harmony awaiting her. Weird. In her death, she was doing something that she thought she was supposed to do. She was doing something instinctual. Okay. This is being said in the card. I feel like the stability or the structure, even anything that she manifested, would have had to have led her to this place. So I feel like anytime there was anything ferocious or something scary or dangerous happening, her instincts would call and she would go. And this would put her into a freedom. This would put her into a place of just kind of knowing. And so that's when she would get up and go. She wouldn't think, she would act. Okay. So she was coming from an animal instinct, and this had a lot to do with her passing. So this could have definitely had to do with somebody else coming in, like that guy coming in and stealing. That would totally align. But I don't know. I don't think that he did it. I really don't. I kind of thought he did, but I don't think that he did. I really, really don't. Get the last couple cards. The last things that we can say here. Yeah, this was just a lot of disappointment, and there was a lot of regret. I just got really dizzy. There was a lot of regret here. Ooh, I get just getting really dizzy. I don't know what's going on. Over on his end, there was a lot of regret, but there was a constant forgiveness. Okay. But there was almost like disappointment there, just as much as regret, just as much as moving into just trying to be forgiving all the time, if that was a thing, or if that was even a real thing that he knew how to do. I don't know. I do feel like moving forward, any action would have been a commitment. He was committed. And when his passing, he was in celebration in his passing. Over on her end, ending. Something about not being protected here, especially at her ending, and just not welcoming what was happening. Okay. So she didn't believe that it was actually or would happen. And I feel like it was kind of the ending for her. Yes, but it's a beginning that she was resistant to, and might even still be resistant to, her not being here. I would like somebody to do a spirit box on her to see if she's actually happy and okay over there. Because some of them struggle to see the light and don't see it. So that would be really interesting to see. I do feel as if her ending definitely had to do with the relationship. Her ending definitely had to do with emotions and her intuition. I'm not even shitting you, this Ace of Water. I'm not even shitting you. Her instinct, her intuition, her knowing, her calling, her animal. I guarantee that if they would have investigated this, they would have seen more than just Sid Vicious. I do. I don't think that Sid Vicious killed her. I do not. I do not. I absolutely do not. There was just too many people involved even. Are you two together? He acts unsupportive over there. So he doesn't act responsible for her over there, even though he is reliable. He's very, like in his nature, that's where that would be at. Responsible, supportive, but he's none of those things. That's how he's moving through it. He's not in a place where he's like, here, I'm loyal and I'm going to, be supportive of things here. That's not his job there. So that's not something that he does. Over on her end of things, I feel like she definitely she has no knowing of, she's not knowledgeable when it comes to where she's at. Okay. There should always be some sort of a goal or objective, and she just cannot see it. So I feel like there's definitely some sort of aggression here. There's a lot of sharp conflict, a lot of messages that would be disrespectful if we were to talk to her. I guarantee it. She could even be a little bit of a bully or very, very forceful within, a communication even towards us. There's no fulfillment. No, not with, no. So I guarantee if somebody did a spirit box with her, that she would say, I almost guarantee she didn't get there yet. She's not there yet. Anyway, I am going to get out of here. Please go ahead, hit subscribe. I hope that you enjoyed the Sid and Nancy reading. This was a difficult one. It had a lot of different parts to it. I enjoyed researching it and looking things up. I enjoyed that, I have a lot of history with this story because of my brother. But it's a difficult, it is difficult. It is difficult when nobody really knows what happened, when she deserved, an answer. Her parents deserved an answer. Somebody deserved a fucking answer. I mean, I don't think that Sid should have been garnered, the name, the killer. I feel like it's definitely having to do with that other dude. I do. I honestly bet you money. I'll bet you $5. All right. Please go ahead and like this video, share it on your social media if you would, please and thank you. Other than that, go check out all of these celebrity readings on the playlist at Hangman Tarot. Don't forget to click the member button to check out incentives and perks so that you can be better than everybody else here on Hangman Tarot. Also, if you would, please go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day and hit that bell so you don't miss anything here. Other than that, see you later.